The ceiling lights slid past me like cold moons as they wheeled my bed down the corridor. My phone vibrated against my palm, again, then again, my parents' names lighting the screen and disappearing before I could answer. I remember thinking, good, let them feel the silence for once. Then the pain hit harder, sharp enough to steal the air from my lungs, and I pressed call anyway. I told them I was going into emergency surgery. I told them the twins were asleep. I told them I needed them for a few hours, just a few. My mother sighed like I'd asked her to move a mountain. My father didn't even bother lowering his voice. "We have tickets," he said. "Your sister's already dressed. Don't be dramatic." I heard music in the background, laughter, anticipation. "We can't keep dropping everything for you," my mother added, clinical as a diagnosis. "You're becoming a nuisance, a burden." The word burden landed heavier than the morphine ever could. I hung up before they could say more, before I could beg. The nurse asked if I had someone coming. I said yes. I lied with a steady voice, because panic is loud, and I refused to give it a stage. I opened my phone and hired a nanny I'd never met, paid double for overnight, triple for short notice. I typed the code to my front door with hands that shook only once. Then I signed the consent forms and let myself go under. I used to believe family was a fixed point, something gravity-bound. You could drift, but you'd always fall back into orbit. I believed that because I was trained to. Growing up, love came with conditions. Be easy, be grateful, be useful. My sister learned how to shine, I learned how to disappear and still make things work. When I got pregnant with twins after my husband died, my parents called it brave in public and inconvenient in private. They helped when it suited them, money mostly, childcare when it didn't clash with brunch. I paid them back anyway. Mortgage payments, car insurance, quiet transfers labeled gift so no one had to say dependency out loud. I thought generosity bought loyalty. I thought proximity created responsibility. I was wrong. The signs were there long before the surgery, the way calls went unanswered, the way my sister's needs eclipsed mine in every conversation, the way my parents spoke about my life like a series of poor choices they were tired of subsidizing. I noticed. I logged it away. I'm good at patterns. But betrayal doesn't announce itself. It waits for a moment when you're weak, when you're horizontal under fluorescent lights, when you say, please. That's when it tells you the truth. When I woke up, groggy and stitched and aching, I checked the nanny cam before I checked my messages. The twins were asleep, breathing in sync, their chests rising like a promise kept. The nanny sat on the couch reading, a mug of tea steaming in her hands. I cried then, quietly, not because of pain, because I understood something new. Family was a choice, and they had just made theirs. I didn't confront them right away. That's not how I work. I recovered. I fed the twins. I paid the nanny again and asked if she wanted something more permanent. She said yes. We drew up a contract. I raised her pay. Then I opened my spreadsheets. I had been the quiet pillar for years, the invisible line item that kept their lifestyle breathable. I paid for their emergencies before they became emergencies. I smoothed edges they never saw. Ending that required precision. I canceled the standing transfers. I closed the joint account my mother pretended not to rely on. I stopped paying the phone plan my father used to call his friends. I let the credit card autopay lapse. No drama, no announcements. Silence is more effective when it arrives unannounced. 2 days later, my sister texted, "Hey, can you spot Mom and Dad for a bit? Something weird happened with their accounts." I stared at the message until the typing bubble appeared again. "They're stressed. You know how they get." I blocked her. I wrote my parents a letter, not an email. A letter feels heavier. I kept it short. "When I needed you, you chose a concert over your grandchildren. You called me a burden. I heard you. I believe you. Effective immediately, I am ending all financial support and contact. Do not come to my home. Do not contact my children. This decision is final. I didn't add my reasons. Reasons invite negotiation. I mailed it and archived the copies of bank statements in a folder labeled Boundaries. The first knock came 3 days later. I didn't answer. The second came at night, louder, angrier. I watched through the camera as my father paced, phone pressed to his ear, my mother wiping tears she'd turned on like a faucet. I called the non-emergency line and asked for assistance removing trespassers. My voice didn't shake. They left with humiliation clinging to them like smoke. 2 weeks passed. In that time, my sister learned the cost of proximity. My parents asked her for money. She offered sympathy. Sympathy doesn't pay bills. It doesn't keep the lights on. It doesn't cover prescriptions. They learned what burden actually feels like. I learned how light my house could be without their gravity. The knock that mattered came on a gray afternoon while the twins napped. 3 measured raps, controlled, familiar. I opened the door because I wanted them to see me standing. My mother looked smaller, my father older. Their confidence had gone brittle at the edges. They smelled like panic. "We need to talk," my father said. I stepped aside and let them in because confrontation is most effective on your own ground. They sat. They waited. I didn't offer tea. My mother started crying immediately. Apologies spilled out, unstructured, frantic. My father tried logic. He talked about family, about misunderstandings, about how everyone says things they don't mean under stress. I let them talk until the room felt crowded with excuses. Then I spoke. "When I was on that hospital bed," I said, "I learned exactly where I rank in your priorities. Behind a concert, behind my sister's evening plans, behind your comfort." They tried to interrupt. I raised a hand. "You taught me something important, that love from you is conditional, that help is transactional, that my usefulness determines my worth." My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back. "I won't raise my children inside that lesson." Silence landed like a verdict. My father leaned forward, voice low. "We made a mistake." "No," I said, "you made a choice." They asked about the money, not immediately, but eventually. I smiled then, a small, precise thing. "That's over," I said, "just like the access, just like the expectation." My mother's face collapsed. My father's jaw tightened. "You can't just abandon us," he said. I tilted my head. "I learned it from you." They left without shouting, without threats. They didn't need to. Reality was already doing the work. I locked the door behind them and rested my forehead against the wood. My hands shook this time. I let them. Relief doesn't arrive gently. It tears through you like a storm and leaves you hollow and clean. Weeks later, I heard through a friend that my parents sold their car, that my sister stopped answering their calls, that the concert photos still sat on my mother's social media, frozen smiles and sequins and proof. I didn't look. I was busy teaching my twins the names of colors, teaching them that home is a place where you're wanted even when you're inconvenient, especially then. I think about that hospital corridor sometimes, the way the lights slid past, the way I chose myself while everyone else chose comfort. Revenge didn't look like screaming or lawsuits or public shame. It looked like withdrawal, precision, consequences applied without cruelty. It looked like silence that finally spoke. And if they ever knock again, I won't answer. Not because I'm angry, because I'm done.